"And who are you?" I said to the soft falling shower, which, strange to tell, gave me an answer. This poem that spoke in the voice of the rain is very important for me tonight. It allows me to introduce an aquatic element to this presentation, whilst conveniently avoiding the question of a catfish that can speak. Rainwater forms a repetitive cycle that is both constant and permanent, but one that takes multiple and varied forms, from the raindrop to the cloud, to the puddle, to the lake. It's this variety of forms that interests me. This plurality exists with people too, I think. There could be many examples, but if we simply examine the surface, what do people call each other? What are their names? The names are multiple, even for one single person. In literature or hip-hop, names are malleable, allowing different voices to proliferate from the same origin. I think that one of the first aliases was the alter ego, a ghostly apparition that emerged from the reflective surface of water, or simply from memory, which makes each person both a spectator and an actor. I have spoken about both mirroring and memory in relation to the development of a sense of self-awareness, but I think that imagination introduces a good synthesis of the two. Jean Genet gives a superb example of this in the figure of the tightrope walker, whose performance is all the more successful if he is able to dream it first and project in his mind an image of himself walking on the wire before he really does it. The image that he conjures of himself is so present to him that, in the end, it is this image that continues living in the memory of the audience. In the case of the tightrope walker, a dream produces a reality, which in turn produces a dream, and here we uncover a cycle, like the cycle of rainwater. There is the idea everything has been seen before in a former world, meaning that knowing is in fact recognizing. If learning is remembering, then not knowing is having forgotten. If memory was a place, a physical space, then what would it look like? In these photographs by Broussais, you can see a place that looks a lot like the space that I imagine, especially the one with the grotto and the two round openings. I imagine the space of memory as a series of caverns, half submerged, some dark and others bright. Night was the perfect foil for Broussais' photographs. Shadows are his primary material, formed from the birth of city lights. Modern kerosene street lighting, which allowed us to reimagine the city, became widespread in European cities in the 19th century. It was closely followed by technological developments in photography and then moving images in cinema, each of which allowed us to see the world for a second time. The extent to which cinema altered perception and our relationship to the world still fascinates me. Before cinema appeared, there was a world without it, in which it did not even seem possible. Then cinema arrived and the world changed. Our way of seeing and imagining the world was changed forever. Recently I was told about a film called The Cave of Forgotten Dreams. I haven't seen it, but the title appeals to me. It seems to describe the physical space I've been trying to imagine. The physical space that memory could occupy, but actually, it mainly seems to me to be a very good analogy for cinema. The projection room itself. An underground room, where images are shone across the walls, where we go in the dark to see stories appear. On a different scale, and much further away, the moon could be considered as a grotto, like the one in the photograph, a grotto turned inside out, with all its surfaces exposed on the outside. The surface of the moon is like a screen, which over time has had so many stories and images projected onto it. It's like a picture, continuously exposed and then revealed, both physically and metaphorically. These images, their power and their presence, without a doubt, have their origins in childhood games. The child not only plays at being a shopkeeper or a teacher, but also a windmill or a train. It is by redoing the world, by acting it, by handling it, that the child learns. The world is first performed, and this way of making the world yours evolves over time. What is being mimicked is also constantly reinvented. In the domestication of the world, words play an important role. Words have the capacity to conjure reality. They allow things to exist outside of themselves. In the book, The Little Prince, the life of an anthropomorphic plant is endangered by a representation of an animal. Two different modes of imagination have a real effect on one another. Throughout the story, the protagonist worries about this rose plant, which is in constant risk of being eaten by a sheep, drawn by the narrator. Something imaginary affects something imaginary. Having been named, the rose and the sheep take on a share of reality. Words are spaces to be explored. They could be gardens, and language an expanse of open space. I will now conclude with a poem written for children.